I'm Austin Palacios.
And we are the Tiger Consultants. Okay. So, what comes with September? If you are between the ages of 5 and 17, it is the end of joyous freedoms of summer and the beginning of the ball and chain of homework and school desks that cut into your back and thighs. It is no wonder then that Labor Day weekend has become a symbol of the last hurrah of the joys of summer. This year, like every other in Eugene's history, teenagers were pulled together, their leftover fireworks from 4th of July, and camp out at Spencer's Butte for one last summer night. But this time, a wind blowing from the southwest catches the sparks of the fires or the fireworks, sending it into the highly flammable and tri foliage. Flames catch at the tops of trees and spread out of control, sprinting down the butte, eager to devour the homes of our beloved city. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the Eugene firestorm.
So what is a firestorm and why should you care? A firestorm is an intense and destructive fire in which currents are drawn into the blazes, making it burn more fiercely. And what sets this apart specifically from wildfires is that it can actually create its own weather. And this was also seen in the Oakland Hills fire in California, and it created flaming whirlwinds, crowning fire in the treetops, clouds of fire, and what appears to be a fire tornado. And as you can imagine, this is especially problematic here in Eugene, because if a firestorm were to occur, our firefighters cannot physically stop the fire. And then here is what happened in the Oakland Hills fire.
The fire began on Saturday, October 19th. In just a few hours, after burning 3 acres of land, the fire seemed under control. But the next day, hidden embers broke into flame. And as much feared Diablo winds picked up speed, the wildfire quickly raged out of control, climbing up the canyon, crowding in a grove of eucalyptus trees. The trees torched like Northern canyons, sending billions of flying embers down the hillside to the communities below.
The next thing I know, I was in my car and leaving. I got stuck coming out near the entrance of the complex. Within 10 minutes, they were just pulling people out of the cars because they couldn't drive out. There was no time. People were screaming that the embers were blowing across the pavement. Fire was just blowing everywhere. Whatever it was. I just about lost my head. You don't imagine something like this happening to you, and you don't know how to do it. When I got to the other side of Highway 24, I got out of my car and I just watched it across the highway, and you couldn't even see the complex anymore. It was just smoke and flames.
Only a few charred trees remain, black as coal, smoke rising from their roots. By the side of the narrow, twisting streets, there are automobiles with blistered paint, melted tires, and solidified puddles of aluminum that have melted in the heat. Associated Press, 1991.
Okay, so as this video showed, the Oakland Hills community was completely unprepared for this fire. Actually, half of the deaths that occurred, there was 25 deaths during the Oakland Hills fire in 1991. Half of the deaths occurred from people who were stuck in their cars in traffic trying to escape. The roads were not big enough. There was not to allow the emergency vehicles through. There was so much traffic and just people trying to get out of the hills that people just like had to leave cars. As you could see, firefighters were going through telling people to walk. There was no evacuation this is why we're here today, to prevent something like this tragic response from happening in Eugene. So as you can see from this map, the fire originated there, and then within the first hour, it spread a mile. Over the next 7 hours, it proceeded to spread another 3/4 of a mile. It split into 3 fronts, making it extremely difficult for firefighters to combat it. Water pipes burst, power lines failed, the communication systems was completely overwhelmed for the fire departments. There was 3 cities were affected, Berkeley, Oakland, and San Francisco as well. And there was just no means of a communication system to connect these 3 cities' resources. In the end, there were 25 fatalities, 3,000 structures were destroyed over the course of 1,500 acres, and it cost $1.5 billion in damages.
And there's actually quite a bit of history of fires in the Eugene area specifically. As you can see that one of the bigger ones was just in 2008 with grass fires within the Eugene city limits. And this is especially problematic for us here in Eugene because Eugene is surrounded by a lot of dry vegetation, which makes us more prone to fires. And then some more estimates over there of very little damage from simple fires that we were actually able to put out. And this is on much smaller scale than a firestorm, so this gives you an estimate of what a small wildfire would appear to be. We've estimated that the warning time for the immediate neighborhood next to Spencer's Butte would be approximately 20 minutes. What makes this situation here in Eugene unique from the Oakland Hills fire is that firefighters were actually on the site of the scene when the Oakland Hills fire broke out due to a previous fire. In this case, most likely with teenagers camping and building bonfires or just fires at Spencer's Butte, we won't have the opportunity to it as soon. The average time, according to the Eugene Fire Department, to respond to a fire is approximately 6 minutes, meaning that there's very little time for this neighborhood to evacuate. We estimated that for the broader Eugene area, it would be approximately 40 minutes for warning time. So currently, we have 318 firefighters in the Eugene and Springfield area. In comparison, Oakland had 408 firefighters. So as you can see, we are not adequately prepared for a firestorm. Next slide. And then some basic information about the Eugene and Springfield demographics. The populations affected would be the city of Eugene, approximately 157,000 people, the city Spencer neighborhood area, which is quite small, and the city of Springfield. And if you look over to the assessed property value, the estimate for the valuation of the property is quite high. And these estimates were taken from the Lane County Department of Assessment and Taxation. Next slide. Our worst case scenario, the estimated damage would be around $15 billion. And a slightly lower estimate since this just includes buildings and then the actual land value, not valuables in your home or cars. And then the current population total would be around 216,000 people who would be affected by this. And as you can see on the map, the area would go from here all the way through Springfield. And our average case scenario based off of the Oakland Hills fire would result in an approximate $5 billion loss of property and 157,000 people would be affected. And this is modeled off of the Oakland Hills fire, which spread a mile in approximately 1 hour.
Also to note is that so the average radius is based off of the fire being stopped once it hits the cement of the city of Eugene, but if it continues to go through and jumps over the river into Springfield, that's where we have the worst case scenario.
And in the Oakland Hills fire, the firestorm actually jumped a highway over to neighboring cities, which is highly likely in Eugene. So our worst case scenario includes
Okay, so the southeast, as you can see right here, is Spencer's Butte, and this is the southeast neighborhood. It is incredibly close proximity. There's a population of over 12,000 within 5 square miles. One of the biggest problems with this neighborhood is that the roads and streets are way too small to allow for the weight load and amount of service vehicles that would be needed to combat this fire. This is an evacuation as well, incredibly difficult. It is bordering heavily vegetated wildlands, which we will talk about a little bit later, that are all very flammable, and the proximity of houses and the wildlands is very, very small, allowing for the fire to just wipe this neighborhood out, basically. And then, so the other neighborhoods that will likely be affected, we've listed them here. So the city of Eugene is 3,800 people per square mile. We think that the fire will be a little bit, will slow down once it is out of the hills, but there are still young trees and other flammable vegetation and flammable housing materials that will keep the fire going and sweeping through the city. The first hour, the fire will likely spread at a rate of 1 mile per hour. This is estimated based on the Oakland Hills fire. It gains momentum from the presence of hills, and as we know, the southeast neighborhood is a very hilly area. This is also the heaviest fuel loading present in the city of Eugene, so this is caused from the heavily forest area surrounding the butte, and this is lots of fuel to provide for quick, immediate growth. The residents of the southeast neighborhood will have very little time to evacuate before the fire reaches their homes. After the first hour, like I said before, the burning will most likely slow in rate, but because of the dispersal of fuels and building materials and natural vegetation, it will continue to spread, and there is a potential for a loss of localized electric power due to fires affecting power lines. Major highways and roads will also be inaccessible due to the fire.
So the probability of the Eugene wildfire and a wildfire growing into a firestorm, the Springfield and Eugene steering committee has actually identified that the probability is actually quite high for this to be happening, and also because of the high fuel load in the direct area, and that's like the trees, the homes, and everything. That this is likely to happen within a 10 to 35 year period. Following slides that we're going to be showing here are some of the conditions that are similar to what Oakland experienced and also what we have here in Eugene. Here we have wind speeds. As you can see, in Oakland they have high wind speeds within certain months, usually between May and October is when they have the highest months of wind speed. And that's also the highest months that we have in Eugene, which average out to about 14 miles per hour, but can be higher. Here, a fraction of time spent with the various wind directions. This is to talk about the probability of actually a wind coming from the southwest that would pick up a fire and bring it into a firestorm that would affect Eugene directly. As you can see here, within those months that I was talking about, between like May and October, especially more towards May, June, July, and into August, we have a percentage of around 20 to even up to probably about 30% of a probability of coming from the southwest. This is to look at precipitation to see like how dry or arid it'll be during different times of the year. Once again, in that sweet spot of May to October, we have the least amount of rainfall. And here's another graph to show just the precipitation as well as the temperature levels in Eugene throughout an annual average year. Once again, that sweet spot, May to October, is where we have our hottest months as well as our lowest precipitation. And here, this is a of Oregon showing the drought in April. This specific one was taken on the 9th of April, and it shows that Currently, Eugene is in a moderate drought. What this also goes to show is that this is also during one of our months of the year that is not our lowest precipitation, and that goes to show that like going forward, we have the ability to maybe see a higher level of drought. And so these are the conditions for a perfect firestorm. Driest months fall between May and October. Hottest months fall between May and October. Highest wind speeds fall between May and October. And what I discussed with the droughts also, it entails that this period of time is when we are most likely going to see an extreme drought, and the conditions are perfect that if we do have a little bit of a spark, the chances of having a firestorm and having that be detrimental to the Eugene community are actually quite high.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about evacuation. So we drew some evacuation routes for different neighborhoods. This first one is going to be, so the red evacuation routes is for the southeast. It's also red because these are going to be the routes that are going to be not able to be used the quickest. Basically just try to get people north and east is just the biggest goal. And then so we have the green over here if you're in the more centralized Eugene area, and then the purple is for the worst case scenario if it does hop the river and go to Springfield. There's a lot of student housing over in that area that would be directly affected, and so those are the routes that residents in that area can take.
There's a back way out of there, which is actually the quickest way out. If you have the least amount of warning, you go to Willard Road, and it winds down into this weird valley and hooks up with 99 at near. It's actually a really fast way out.
Okay.
That's the way I'm going because everyone else is going to go the other way.
Yeah.
Seriously. And if the fire likely side of Spencer Butte that this fire would start on would be on the southwest side,
Right.
and that evacuation route is on the southeast side. So you actually do have enough time to get out that way.
Now I'm going to speak to a few mitigation methods that we to us. This is mitigation that we might be able to take as a city. One of the things that we may be able to use is compressed air pump systems on our crucial facilities around the city. What this kind of works like is a little bit like our water sprinkler systems. What it does is it will release a fire retardant foam that will be able to stop the spread of fire. We know that the fire is coming. We can use that to protect areas from actually ignition, being ignited. This would be really key to have on our public facilities like our schools, our hospitals, daycares, etc. We also have the option of banning fireworks sales during seasons where the probability of a fire or wildfire are actually quite high. There is actually precedence for this. In July 2012, we actually had a lot of our Midwest states enact a fireworks ban because of a severe drought that was occurring, and they had to. We also have the opportunity to implement a disaster response communication system between Eugene and Springfield. FEMA does a lot of education on this because it does work so well. This would be a great way to have Eugene make sure that members throughout both cities are able to be in the loop of communication about the possibility of a wildfire and firestorm, and actually when they do occur, as many people out as possible in the most safe and efficient way. An alert system implemented in surrounding neighborhoods, like a siren system or something that we can just hit off to make sure that people know that their neighborhood is in danger if firestorms like that's coming. Another thing that we can do to help mitigate this situation is to raise staff of different areas that would help out in a response team manner. So one area that we could raise staff is with our Eugene Fire Department. It takes about roughly $55,000 to $72,000 to employ one firefighter per year. The most at-risk times of the year is about that half-year period between May and October. It would cost us $550,000 about to hire just 20 firefighters for that half-year period, and then $1,001,000 $104,000 to hire 40 firefighters during that period as well. Also, if we work with our Eugene Park system, our Eugene Park specialists who are the ones who are going out there making sure that people aren't out there setting fires, little hooligans, on the Spencers. That would cost us $33,000 to $55,000 for one park specialist per year. During that time period of a half a year, 10 Spark could be hired on for $168,000, and 20 could be hired on for $336,000. Some mitigation that homeowners can do just themselves to make sure that their homes are safe is to actually make sure that their home itself has a 100-foot defensible space area, which would be probably their primary deterrent. What that kind of means is to make sure that 100 feet within their house itself is basically free of flammable-esque type things, like grass, long trees, things like that. Like thinning the trees near the home would be really helpful because with a firestorm, what happens is a lot of times it jumps tree from tree with the wind, and it could spread so quickly that like tree close to your house would almost ignite your home, and then you don't have a big home. Use of fire-resistant landscaping because long grass does catch so easily. Keeping your lawn low, as well as native plants, because the thing about native plants is that a lot of times in areas where you have plants that are native to that area, those plants are usually a little bit more accustomed to the basic cycle of, I guess, just nature, and sometimes they're better prepared for these types of situations. As well as having rock gardens could be helpful too. Use of fire-resistant roofs or exterior walls. Something that can really help with that is fire-retardant paint. You can actually get a 5-gallon bucket of that for about $325. How that works, actually when heat gets in contact with it, what it will do is it'll swell to form an insulated, which actually takes the fuel away from the flames and can actually help stop the spread of your house safe. And also it's a good idea to get fire insurance as well, because if your home does become victim of a firestorm, there goes your liability if you don't have any insurance on it. Another thing that we can do is revive the ballot measure 2211 that was actually shut down by
us
last year. That was a little unfortunate. 65% of you voted no. But basically, what would happen if this passed is that we could get more funding for our park services, our police services, fire services, and more. And an increase of this a budget in these areas would actually better help regulate mitigation and evacuation capabilities of the danger zones. This could all be done with an added fee of no more than $10 per month per residence, which is $20 per year. Not that big of a price. Also, it could be $30 per month for businesses, which would come out to about $360 per year. So these are just that we can use to make sure that we can help keep this from happening.
And then the following are just some ideas to keep in mind moving forward. We, the Tiger Consultants, implore you, the Eugene Council, to take into consideration the fact that we can mitigation strategies, which would greatly help reduce the estimated $15 billion damage that we mentioned before. Another great thing to do is to educate and drill the community on evacuation plans, and then to just prepare emergency staff on how to handle natural disasters and various scenarios in this sort of situation.
Thank you.
Thank you.